Even as the first tower burned on every channel that morning, no one on the federal level who had received warnings all summer called New York to order an evacuation of Tower 2. No one ordered fighters to perform any timely defensive action against the remaining hijacked planes. No one responded adequately to the crisis.
It seems reasonable to believe that the skies from Washington, D.C. to New York City are among the best defended airspace in the entire United States, if not well beyond. From the White House to Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland and Langley in Virginia is just a couple of minutes flying time, with F-18 and F-16 fighter squadrons standing by, presumably in combat readiness. So the question is, why, on the morning of September the 11th, 2001, were none of those jet fighters in the sky over Washington and New York?
And on the day itself, which I think is the most significant evidence, the first plane hit at 8:46 a.m., the Southern Tower at about 9:05 a.m., the third plane hit the Pentagon at 9:38 a.m. They knew there was a hijack between 8:10 and 8:20 in the morning, let's say 8:15, so they knew half an hour before the first plane, 3/4 of an hour before the second plane, and an hour and a half before the third plane hit their targets. And not once in that time did they scramble a warplane to intercept. Now that is just staggering.
Why did NORAD fail to stop the attackers 4 times on September 11, 2001? 3 times after they knew the planes were hijacked and intent on mass murder. How could this happen when NORAD had successfully intercepted off-course and suspected hijackings 67 times during the year prior to 9/11, according to the Associated Press on August 13, 2002? There should have been an umbrella of F-15 and other aircraft over Washington. An F-15 fighter reaches 29,000 feet in 2.5 minutes when ordered to scramble. It can travel 50 miles and destroy a target in less than 2 minutes.
Anytime an airliner goes off course, or loses radio communication, or loses its transponder signal, anytime any one of those 3 things happen, the aircraft is supposed to be intercepted. On 9/11, all 3 of those things happened, and still there was no intercept. Those planes flew around for from 20 minutes to an hour and a half without ever being intercepted.
So why weren't the 4 hijacked planes intercepted and shot down? Military jets travel much faster than passenger aircraft. It would have been easy for them to catch up the jet planes before they crashed.
A lot of people down the road say, well, the president had to give authority to shoot aircraft down and stuff like that. That is not true. An interceptor pilot has the responsibility and the authority on his or her own to shoot down an airplane if they think the situation calls for it, and this is how it would be.
You don't have to wait for a military command. You don't have to wait for orders of any kind. That's not an option. That's the law. It's inherent in being a fighter pilot. You know that's what you have to do, unless somebody has told you to stand down.
Before 1970, we had one form of scrambling aircraft, and it was immediate, bang, bang, bang. Then in the 1970s, we had some hijackings come into our civil airspace, and that wasn't a quick response. What we did in that is we didn't want the hijackers to know that we were there, so we didn't rush the fighters off the ground, and we kind of snuck them up behind the aircraft. So we put a second protocol in. And the reason that the hijacking protocol is slow is because you had to get Pentagon approval before you could release your fighters. Those 2 type of protocols lasted until June 1st, 2001, 3 months before 9/11. In June of 2001, Rumsfeld and the Pentagon and the military changed the procedures, and instead of having two protocols, one fast, one slow, they went to one protocol, slow. If we had reacted to the in-flight emergency immediately, the fighters would have been up and on the way, and those aircraft would never, ever have reached their targets. But when the center controllers came to notifying the military, okay, because they had only one protocol to work with, that protocol went through the Pentagon. Guess what? Guess who didn't answer the phone? It was the Pentagon. Here's an analogy that I can give that would help out the common person here. What Rumsfeld did is the fire call comes into the fire station, but before the fire truck gets a chance to leave, it has to call the mayor of the city to get approval for that departure. And what if the mayor is out for breakfast or he's sleeping late and he doesn't answer the phone?
Look carefully at this footage, shot just a few minutes after the attack on the Pentagon. Notice the man that is helping to carry a casualty. It is the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. What is he doing here when, as head of the defense of the whole nation, and whilst the United States is still under attack, he is helping tend to the wounded? Why is he not at his command post?
How would you like your fire department to sit there and say, well, I'm sorry, we can't come and put your house out and save your lives because the mayor didn't say so? And on 9/12, they changed the protocols again back to the first protocol, which was the fast scrambles, and that's what it is today. So the way that Rumsfeld's Pentagon managed this whole thing is they switched gears, okay? They switched out of having two, fast and slow, into slow, okay? And then they said, oh, we're bad, 9/12, let's go fast again.
East of the United States, there are as many as 16 Air Force bases. Why weren't the Boeing jets intercepted? The official story argues that air defense was informed too late.
One of the biggest lies is that the FAA guys were incompetent. When we lose an airplane, we take action. We do not sit, we do not delay, we go to protocol. Boom, 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 boom. When the air traffic controllers first saw American 11 start to lose its radio, lose its transponder, go off course, and all of these bad things that are going on, they did not take a coffee break.
Norman Mineta, the Secretary of Transportation, accidentally told the 9/11 Commission who gave the order not to attempt to intercept or shoot down the planes. Mineta testified that at 9:28 he was in a bunker under the White House with Vice President Cheney.
It was a young man who would come in and say to the Vice President, the plane is 50 miles out, the plane is 30 miles out. And when it got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the Vice President, do the orders still stand? And the Vice President turned and whipped his neck around and said, of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?
So what was Cheney talking about when he said the order still stands? What order still stands? Obviously, with all the vast defenses in place to protect the Pentagon, if it was an order to shoot, the plane would have been shot down, no? Isn't that obvious? If it were an order to shoot, the people who failed to fire even one shot would have incurred the wrath of Dick Cheney, would have been court-martialed instead of promoted, no? If it were an order to shoot, the young man would not have run to Cheney to find out if the order still stood. He would have been busy carrying out the order to shoot, obviously. So it's also obvious that Cheney had ordered the defenses not to shoot, but to stand down. He had ordered no shots to be fired. No wonder the young officer couldn't believe it.